Right, Anne is not going to introduce me, I'll introduce myself. I'm Karen Campbell, and I'm not going to say very much more than that actually, because I think in what I'm going to share with you, I will introduce myself. The reason I looked as though I wasn't ready just a minute ago is because I was busy jotting some notes from what Ray was sharing, and particularly that believing more and more in less and less. And I think that just spoke to me, and I'm thinking, that's where I am. That's where I am. And what I know is that I increasingly don't believe in the God that I have been taught and that I hear being preached and spoken about all around me. So, but I'm quite used, and what I will tell you about myself is that I think for a very long time I recognise myself as being a bit of a misfit, and I've often said that I am comfortable with being uncomfortable, and when I become too comfortable, I know that something is wrong. So that's me. I'm a bit of a contrary character. I've titled my presentation today, my reflections, Belonging Nowhere, Knowing My Place. And I'm not going to lie to you, I've been swamped and immersed in work. So that title kind of came to me quite late in the day. And what I will say is, I will start talking, and by the time I finish talking, we will see whether what I've said actually matches up with that title. I don't promise you. We'll see where we get to. What I can tell you is that, in essence, what I'm sharing with you, it's a reflection of aspects of my life's journey, but I think it's also a reflection beyond myself, and maybe embracing stories that have been shared with me by other people as well. And my presentation, it's not academic. I won't be citing any theologians. I don't make much in the way of scriptural reference, and I'm saying all of that not to apologize for what I am going to say, but just to prepare you for what to expect. And for as long as I can remember, I've written poetry. And quite often, this is how I think. And my presentation is shaped around or illustrated by several of the poems and prayers that I've written over the years. And the first one is called Black. If the night sky wasn't inky, could the stars shine so bright? And if there wasn't darkness, tell me, how could light be light? No dark depths of earth, how would the flora grow? Black is essential, don't you know? You tell me black is no good, the shade of evil, shade of sin. How do I then make sense of the blackness of my skin? The skin I didn't choose, no more than you could choose your own. The skin that I was gifted, only skin I've ever known. Black is what I am, it's who I am, it is my pride. It's the strength on which I stand, where I refuse to be denied. Black speaks of where I'm going, how the world relates to me. Black speaks of where I've come from, heritage and history. But it's hard not to internalize the message all around. Before a word is spoken, that in black offense is found. Explicit or implied, yet from your view you cannot see the shackles to be broken until black lives full and free. I'm going to say this, in case no one has noticed. I am black. I am proud to be black. But what a strange thing to say. I didn't choose to be black. I didn't have to study to be black. I don't have to earn being black. I just am black. But I say I am proud to be black because it was a journey to embrace my blackness. Not the colour of my skin as such, but what the colour of my skin means for pretty much every aspect of my life. I grew up in a world where there is an unspoken understanding that whiteness is superior to blackness. Whiteness is preferable to blackness, more beautiful, inherently more deserving of respect and position and power and even deference. Nothing inherently good is black. And being black, I could aspire, I could emulate, I could try to model, but I could never really be good enough. So with all this to contend with, Is it any wonder that it was a journey to embrace my blackness? But I made that journey, and so now I tell you that I am black, and I am proud to be black. Another poem. Who do they say I am? I say I am Karen, and I want to be free, to define who I am and simply be me, to look in life's closet and check out the shelf, be clothed in the labels I choose for myself. Daughter, sister, mother, all three, I'm nothing without my family, who've shaped from the start whether known or unknown, the me that I am, who is me alone. But step through the door and out of the fold, I encounter a world of labels untold, which sees not the person I think to be me, ascribing instead what they want me to be. I say I am Karen, and in yesteryear thought my name was the only label to wear, till they labelled me coloured and made me believe my sort was not good, making heart and soul grieve. And though I could try, I was not good enough. So I learned I am black, made of sterner stuff. Learn to think, learn to speak, learn to know my own mind, to choose my own labels. But did I leave self behind? I say I am Karen. They ask Karen from where? And I know, for I've learned, I'm not Karen from here. So I sift through the labels, within and without, seeking one which will speak of the me I'm about. I know I'm not English, that's one I won't own, though this country is all I have ever known. Black British, Caribbean, their labels I bear, to place for someone, a girl from nowhere. I say I am Karen, and I have one child, but seeing no husband, they think me defiled. They label me fallen, they think I was shamed, and await my account for the sin they have named. Sometimes I can see the confused, concerned eye, as they pointlessly wait for a contrite reply. Then yearning a picture more tidy somehow, declare, that was your past, but you're much different now. So with head held high and back drawn straight, I claim the label they want me to hate. I am a single mother, a truth I lay bare. Call me problem, call me issue, call me sinner, just dare. I don't say I'm sorry, won't hang my head low, won't sidestep nor fret about what who might know. For I am who I am, and long since came to see, I'm all right with God, and God's all right with me. I say I'm Karen, but the me I embrace is so much a product of labels I face, makes me see and peel back at least some that I use, and walk just a while in another's shoes. I say I am Karen. I am me alone, a complex concoction of labels I own, of those I've rejected or skewed to my way, and still others I'm sifting to see what they say. Yet in wearing, not wearing, those labels I see, sometimes I lose sight of me. I'm going to share quite a few poems with you, and I hope it doesn't become too heavy and dense, and maybe later on, I'll give you, maybe at the end, we'll see where we've got to, or later during the conference, you can ask whatever questions. And what I will tell you is, my skin is thick, so I am not easily shocked, I am not easily distressed and all that kind of stuff. And as far as I'm concerned, if somebody's engaging with me intelligently, if somebody is trying to engage with me sensibly, I think, I always say we need to have space for grace. What I don't appreciate is if and when people seem like they want to engage, but they don't really. So they're not actually employing their brains. I kind of say to people sometimes, I'm sometimes foolish, but I'm not a fool. And so don't speak to me as if I'm a fool. Because if we're having a conversation, and you're speaking as if somebody in the conversation, apologize to those on Zoom. And that if somebody speaks to me as if somebody in the conversation is a fool, I know it's not me. So you're not going to like it if I start engaging with you like you're a fool. So let's not do that. Let's just engage as human beings. So, to continue. As the poem that I just shared, and already you're starting to get a gist of who I am and where I'm from as such. I was born in England. England is the only place I have ever lived, but something has always told me that I don't quite belong. And I would never describe myself as English. And I'm not sure whether part of that is because that which has rejected me, I reject in return. I'm not doing it consciously, but I wonder if that's an aspect of what it is that's going on. You don't want me? Well, that's fine. I don't want you either. I have a Scottish surname, but I'm definitely not Scottish. I have an African face, but I'm not from Africa. And my parents are Jamaican, but I'm not Jamaican. If I went to Jamaica and claimed to be Jamaican, they'd laugh at me. And they'd tell me, English girl, go home. You know, this is the truth of it. In 2017, I went to Ghana as a URC participant in the Council for World Mission Legacies of Slavery project. And it was incredibly painful to discover that folks in Africa, in that context, see me very much as being part of the UK, part of Europe, part of those who have benefited and continue to benefit from the exploitation of their land. So Africa was one more place for me to not belong. And so in essence then, I realized, or I've come to realize, that I belong nowhere. I feel rooted in my parents. And to be really honest, that's about as far back as I go. I never had opportunity to meet my grandparents, who are all now deceased. And I have no idea who came before them. I am aware that Campbell must be the name of the slave owners who once owned my African ancestors. But I have no idea and no way of finding out what my true family name should be. Girl from Nowhere. Another poem. How deep? How deep are your roots? How wide do they span? Reaching out, reaching back to where you began. How far do you look and how far do you see? To know who you are, what makes me be me. How far back is family and coming from where? Is home in this place or somewhere back there? To whom and with whom do you feel you belong? When life surges with questions, what makes you stand strong? Is the person you are both certain and true, or blown by the wind, seeking self, seeking you? Is there something which holds, keeps your feet on the ground, always constant, secure, though distractions surround? Is there a place, somewhere that you know you can be your worst self, yet will not let you go, but will see and will yearn and will grieve for your sake, reaching out, clinging on, with a hold which won't break? What are your foundations, the ground where you stand, prepares you to fly, but where you'll always land? The people, the places, events old and new, which mold you and shape you, make you truly you. When you think of yourself, what more comes to mind? I see your persona, but what lies behind? The guide for your footsteps, the place where you start, your roots, your foundations, your lifeblood, your heart. I was fortunate, or maybe it's more that I was blessed, to be born into a large family. And I was further blessed to grow up in Tottenham, North London. Anybody from Tottenham? Yay! Growing up in Tottenham, it seemed to my young eyes that ethnic minorities made up the majority of the local population. I'm sure that's probably not actually true, but I think there were enough black faces that I could feel safety or security most of the time. I was surrounded by people like myself. And I say I was blessed because I've heard the challenges faced by black people and ethnic minority people who come from only a handful of black and ethnic minority families in their areas. But I was safe. I was secure. Was I? Because even so, even having that security around me, I can remember when the BNP decided to stage a march through my home area, and it was hugely unnerving. I was aware of voices demanding that people like me should go home. And I can remember thinking, but where is home? I don't come from Jamaica. Not that I wanted my parents to go home, but if somebody said to my parents, go home, they could say they're going to go to Jamaica. You know, people who are born in another context, they could say they're going to go there. This is all I've ever known. Where is home? Where could I go except to hear this girl who belongs nowhere? They ask me where I come from. They ask me where I come from, and I'm not sure what to say, not certain of the question, or if I'll play along today. While they gaze at me expectantly, I ponder for a while. So, where do you come from? They repeat with patient smile. Where do I come from? What would you like to hear? I hear the words you utter, but their meaning isn't clear. I've often been asked that question. My response should not take long. But though the answer is mine to give, somehow I sometimes get it wrong. Where do you come from? It's buzzing around my mind. Such a heavy loaded question I very often find. Referring not to who I am, the way that I see me, but laden with assumptions about what they think they see. My skin, it seems, speaks loudly, but its message isn't clear. It depends on who is listening and what they want to hear. And because that is the way it is, sometimes without intent, I can't hear the simple question without questioning what is meant. Right, I've got my answer. I know what I'll reply. The question isn't difficult. Sometimes I wonder why. I try to read so very much behind the word that's said, when the answer to the question springs instant to my head. Tottenham, that's where I'm from. I'll say it clear and loud. It's not everybody's paradise, but I'm from Tottenham and I'm proud. Born just slightly up the road, I lived my whole life there. A Tottenham girl, that's what I am. If you know me, that's quite clear. A brief silence. A kindly smile. Yes, but where do you come from? Jamaica. If not, then where? All my life just isn't long enough to make me come from here. I can remember, actually, a very specific conversation. My sister used to live in Basildon, and I was out for a walk in Basildon, and somebody met me in the town, or I encountered somebody in the town centre, who engaged me in this conversation and asked me that question, where do you come from? And this account that I've just relayed to you is pretty much exactly what happened, you know. And when I said, I thought about it, and I said, yes, I'm from Tottenham. No, where do you come from? It can be quite entertaining, but actually, encountering that, hearing that question and really realizing that the answer, as I said in the poem, the answer is mine to give, but somehow I can be wrong. It's strangely. So in such a confusing world, at least the church must be, surely, a place of refuge, right? I grew up in church. I grew up in what might popularly be described as a black church. I just knew it as church. It's where I had no choice. My parents sent us. You are going. And so we went. Looking back, I realized that even that safe space was not as safe as I thought. Why? Because the same notions that prevail in the world were right there in the church with us, are right here in the church with us, to a greater or lesser extent. Because even in matters of faith, Christian faith, whiteness is equated with goodness, purity, godliness, something to which we should aspire, to join the heavenly throng or clothed in dazzling white. Blackness and darkness are equated with sinfulness, evil, something to be resisted, feared, and overcome. And I know in terms of biblically, that is not meant to apply to people per se. But when I think about history, when I think about the relationship between white majority countries and black nations, when I think about the history of slavery and empire, actually, isn't that what we're living? Overcoming blackness, overcoming that place, overcoming the darkness. I really appreciated the reference in last night's worship to God's enfolding, nurturing darkness. I don't remember the exact words, but I remember being struck by that image. So thank you. Because I thought that is something we really don't often hear. Most of the time in Christian liturgy and worship and words, darkness is evil, darkness is bad, it's something to be overcome. We need to bring the light into it. I don't remember expressly being taught this, but I grew up with a default notion that God is white, Jesus is white, the disciples were all white. Only the Ethiopian eunuch was not white. And I might have added that realization a bit later when I was a bit older, not sure. I think that my household must have been one of only a few Caribbean homes that I'm aware of that did not have the image of a blonde-haired, blue-eyed Jesus gazing benevolently from the wall. And I don't think it's because we were more enlightened. I think it's just that we didn't have one to display. Even the church, place of sanctuary, place of refuge, helps to reinforce the racist stereotypes which exist in our world. Consider for a moment, what does such imagery do to the psyches of the people who absorb them week in, week out? How might such imagery impact white people? The ways that white people understand themselves, the way they understand and relate to black people. What impact does such imagery have on black people, our self-understanding, and the ways we relate to our white counterparts? I invite all of us to think about it. What impact does it have? This is a prayer that I wrote for the URC Prayer Handbook fairly recently. And it's drawing on text from Psalm 51, it says verse 7, which I didn't look up again, I'm trusting myself. And this is it. It's called More Than Words. You know, God, I struggle with so much of what I have been taught. When I hear the words, washed and made whiter than snow, when my heart is grieved by the equating of darkness with evil, and my soul aches at the linking of blackness with sin. Some people tell me I am wrong. They take offense at me taking offense. They tell me it's not literal. They tell me it's in the Bible, though I have not found where sin is named as black. They tell me the Bible is God's word, and ask, who am I to question God? Well, loving God, I am me, the child you created in your own image, equally loved and equally precious as all your children. Yet, because of the skin which none of us could choose, some find themselves regarded as less worthy, less capable, less competent, less beautiful, less lovable, less human, less deserving of dignity, less deserving of life. Those words, that imagery, have been used for too long to justify and uphold such foolishness, such evil. For surely evil is the opposite of righteousness, and surely sin is not the opposite of white. So I don't want to be washed and made whiter than snow, and I won't accept that black is the color of sin. Remind all your children that we are all your children, and we are equally beloved in your sight. I think a very long time ago, I learned, not because anybody taught me or said it to me, but I learned for myself that I can have honest conversations with God. Somebody, I forget who was reflecting yesterday about that thing that nothing is beyond limits for conversations with God. And I think for a lot of us still in the church, we behave, we carry ourselves as if some things are out of bounds. It just is. It's the word of God, and we can't question it. I think I am, by nature, probably a questioner. And for a long time, have been finding a lot to question. And I will question, and I will throw it to God and see what comes up. We'll see. I grew up the middle child of 7. I told you that I come from a big family. It's great. Party all the time. We were, relatively speaking, actually economically quite poor. But somehow I never really realized at the time, because my parents ensured that we had what we needed, even though we quite often didn't have what we wanted. And my mom in particular brought us up with a deep-rooted and very practical and grounded understanding of sharing. I can remember my mom saying, if it's only one sweetie, it can share. Everybody can get some. I wondered to myself, what would the world look like? What would the church look like if we all could adopt my mom's way of thinking? What would the world look like if we could adopt that way of thinking? This poem, it's a bit autobiographical, based on my childhood, based on my family, but it's also about church, and it's also about world. And it's called Feast. Mummy says, come for the feast is spread. She cracks the sweet between her teeth. A piece for you, a piece for me. No one on top, no one beneath. Daddy says, come, a treat for you. A pound to share for 7 hands. And youthful minds can rest content. Each one their share full understands. But that was then, a simpler time. Held safe within a warm embrace, to twist and grow and push and test. But no, my place was mine, my place. But this is now a different world, a life to live beyond the fold, holding tight to what I've known, to keep me safe against the cold. For in this world, one thing I've learned, my place no longer is secure. And who or what or where I am, of these I simply can't be sure. For every time I plant my feet, say this is me, and make a stand, someone, something, within, without, redraws the line in shifting sand. Mummy says, come for the feast is spread. From all directions we would fly, all different and yet all the same, beneath a daddy's watchful eye. Ah, this is life, but soon we learn that life is not a simple fare, which welcomes each and welcomes all, and gives and takes our measured share. And I don't grudge the other's lot, don't ask for free what I could earn. I neither want to hold inside that which I have and could return. Mummy says, come, for the feast is spread. We were too young yet to conceive. We had gifts too that we could give, so we were happy to receive. They say, come, a feast is spread. Come join us in our happy throng. Come sing and dance and praise like us. Then to our feast you will belong. There's no difference, we're the same before the God who made us all. So hurry now from every place in answer to the open call. But don't you see, we're not the same. We're different as we're meant to be. For God created humankind in all our rich diversity. The feast you've spread, no feast at all, if nothing there from my own hand. The finest food which you have laid becomes for me quite simply bland. If only some provides a fare, tell me, Have you never thought some guests might just feel ill at ease? The food and drink might just run short. For if the feast is yours to spread, the gifts are only yours to give. You set the limits for your guests, what they can be, how they can live. Where then the space to twist and test, the space in which we all can grow, held safe within a warm embrace, with none above and none below. And so instead a bring and share, like 5,000 did before. Let's bless, give thanks, whatever comes, and have enough, and so much more. Daddy says, come, my feast is spread. From all directions, heed my call. Lay your gifts and take your place at my feast that's spread and shared by all. Just as an aside, my mom quite literally would say, actually my mom's name is Shirley, and she would say, Shirley says come for the feast is spread, as she's cracking the sweet, or as she's got her little bag of cashew nuts, which was a treat, and so you got your couple of grains in, you got your couple of grains in, you got your couple of grains in, and we were happy. I have a friend, just the one you understand. He's British born, to Jamaican parents. He's in his mid-60s. And he's been part of the URC for around 1 million years, and that's a conservative estimate. And that friend asks, why does the URC still talk in terms of welcome for people who have been part of its body for decades? He says he doesn't want to be welcomed. He says, this is my church. I'm not a guest. He says it's a bit like if you came home from work in the evening, there's somebody in his house, opening the door to say, welcome, you know. What are you doing in my house? He asks, who has the right to welcome me to my own church? When do we become part of that which offers the welcome to others? That's another one. I didn't learn about slavery in school. I didn't learn black history. I did learn about the British Empire. I haven't retained a lot of it. I wasn't with it. History wasn't my favorite subject, let me say that. I learned that the British Empire was a good thing for the world. I learned that Britain brought civilization to the savage dark lands from which people like me hail. Oh, thank the Lord for that. I didn't like history. I found it boring and remote, and so I never thought to dig any deeper. So while I could tell you what it was like to be this black person in the UK, for most of my life, I had no anchor for understanding that experience. But there was a slow and gradual opening of my eyes, a recognition that the way it is simply cannot be the way that God intended it to be. The place that the world was teaching me to recognize as being my place did not reconcile with my place as a beloved child of God. My awakening was fast-tracked when I was invited to take part in the CWM Legacy of Slavery project. The project involved 4 hearings in different locations of significance in transatlantic slavery. And in fact, I helped shape the London hearing and was a contributor to the program. And I later took part in the Ghana hearing. There was a Jamaica hearing. They didn't invite me. I've forgiven them. That invitation, those experiences, helped to crystallize in my mind my whole life's experience. It gave those experiences context. I'm not saying for the first time, but it crystallized it more. And the context was transatlantic slavery, the trade itself, but also, and maybe even more so, the continuing legacies today. My life, my world, your life, and your world have been shaped by the evil of transatlantic slavery. In 2019, I was asked to serve on the URC's Legacies of Slavery Task Group in response to the CWM project findings. That task group involved white people and black people sitting together, grappling together, considering the issues together, to make recommendations to help our church to engage. We were told that this would be a time-limited piece of work, ending with a report to Mission Council in autumn 2019. I have to tell you, we were duped. We did our work, we wrote our report, we recommended an apology, recommended reparations, recommended ongoing engagement with the issue and impact of white privilege. And then the URC did what the URC is good at doing. We were thanked for our report. It was received warmly. And we were sent away to do further work. By the way, I love the URC really. More work, exactly what we needed. Not. But we took it on. And one area of that work was the need to consult more widely. And we decided to go URC-wide. Why? Because this mattered. Because we know the disconnect between the local church and General Assembly. And whatever decision would eventually come out of General Assembly in relation to the legacies of slavery. We didn't want folks in the local church saying, I've never even heard of this. No one asked us. I don't know what you're talking about. The responses to the consultation were widely varied. There are many in the URC who feel that this work is not just due, but long overdue. People who are completely supportive. There are some who feel that transatlantic slavery is in the past and we should move on. We need to focus on modern day slavery, they tell us. Some feel that while it was horrific, we were not responsible and we cannot apologize for the past nor the actions of others. I understand all those views. I don't necessarily agree with them, but I understand. Some other respondents felt that the focus on the legacies of transatlantic slavery is a non-issue, a pointless waste of time, waste of money, waste of resources. One respondent went as far as to say that they would be recommending that their church cuts its contributions to the central church by 30% because clearly the URC has money to waste. A couple of others vowed to leave the URC should an apology be given. And I was puzzled. And I'm still puzzled. I always knew there would be different opinions relating to these issues. But why the vehemence? Why are those who have no reason to be angry so very, very, very angry? And my mind was drawn to the imagery of the church as the body of Christ, a body wherein we say, if one part hurts, all parts hurt. How can it be then that we speak of the pain being experienced by some parts of our body? And the response is, what's it got to do with me? Or, your pain is a non-issue. What then does it mean to be the body of Christ? It was hard for all members of the task group to engage with the most vehement responses, but we did it. We were asked to do it, and we did it. Imagine, though, how damaging it was for the black members in particular to read and absorb what was being said in our church, especially given the backdrop of the day-to-day living that I've painted. When we speak as Christians, when we engage and even disagree, shouldn't we do so with love, with care for all the parts of the body? In God's image, I am a child of God, as you are. In my face is reflected the likeness of God, as in yours. Why then do you despise the color of my skin, the shape of my features, or the texture of my hair? Why do you think that I must think like you, act like you, speak or believe like you? I am me, made in the image of our parent God. in whose image you are made? How do you feel at ease, enjoying the privilege you have not earned, but have seized and seized from my own hand? Why do you assume that those who are like you are more desirable, deserving, somehow better? Better how? According to who? Why must I have your approval or permission to be me, fully me, the me our parent God birthed me to be? Why must my life be constrained by your norms, your customs, your rules, your ways, your judgment of who or what is acceptable or not? Who gave you the monopoly on rightness? And rightness in whose eyes? Love others as you love yourself, or maybe as you would wish to be loved. And judge not, in case you too are judged. So says our parent God, in whose image we all are made. I was appointed to my present role. Let me start that sentence again. I am the URC's Secretary for Global and Intercultural Ministries, and I was appointed to this role on the 1st of April 2020, and I maintain that God was having a laugh at my expense. Don't tell the folks at Church House, but it's a post that I never really wanted. Andy put nothing in print.
So I won't release the recording either.
Oh no! I didn't really. But it's a post I never really wanted, but I was encouraged to, there were reasons, but I was encouraged to apply for it. It's a post I never expected to get. It's a post for which I felt ill-equipped, and yet here I am. I'm not an expert in anything, apart from being me, and maybe not even that. I started my post during the first COVID lockdown, which highlighted just some of the racial inequalities in the UK and around the globe. And a few weeks after my appointment, George Floyd was murdered, putting racial justice absolutely in the spotlight. My first concrete task in my new role was to draft the URC's response to that atrocity. Easy job, obviously. You will all remember the global upsurge in Black Lives Matter in response to all these dynamics, and the focus of my early work and my continuing work now has been necessarily dictated by these dynamics. And so it was that Global Intercultural Ministries, my office, hosted an online gathering titled Do Black Lives Matter in the URC? Because it's easy to stand remotely and critique out there. But what is happening right here in our midst? The church is called to be a mirror to the world. I noted the lines in the hymn this morning. You know, the church is called to be a mirror to the world. But are we, in fact, a mirror image of that world? I had a number of conversations with black members and white members, pointing to the URC's lack of progress regarding racial justice, pointing to resolutions passed, then apparently forgotten, the sense that things have actually moved backwards in recent years. And for some, for many, a frustration. Is there any point us talking? We don't need more resolutions, we need action. And I agree. I heard it, I felt it, and I knew that I had to respond. I was finding my place, even though that place is an uncomfortable place. It frequently is beyond uncomfortable. I sometimes muse that I never knew it was possible for human beings to have multiple heads. Did you know that? You see, you're a bit worried. What's she going to say? I dare agree with her. I say it must be possible. Why? Because I find myself asked to put my head above the parapet, knowing it will get shot off. And it does. And yet somehow, I keep finding another head to put above the parapet. And the next time, and the next time, and the next time, and the next time. Who says there's no such thing as miracles? And so in response to my baptism of fire coming into my role, in autumn 2020, Global and Intercultural Ministries, put forward the Anti-Racist Church Resolution, asking the URC to commit ourselves to a journey from being not racist to actively anti-racist. And I have to tell you, I was absolutely delighted and amazed when the resolution was adopted with unanimous support. The journey, it's hard, but there is hope. There is hope. Many people don't fully understand what this anti-racist work is about. And that's okay, I don't fully understand either, so we're in good company with each other. But how much understanding is enough understanding to spur us to action? Surely we just need to understand enough to recognize that things are not as they should be, to recognize that some people are hurting, to recognize that together we need to respond. Could it be right, for example, that black people bear the brunt of multiple inequalities in the UK, from health to housing, education to employment, economics to criminal justice, or is it criminal injustice? And turning the mirror around, could it be right that in the URC's 50-year existence, our General Secretariat has always been completely white? Could it be right that there has only ever been one synod moderator from an ethnic minority background? That there has only been one black assembly moderator? That most of our positions of decision-making and influence are occupied by white middle-class people, and most often men? We may not fully understand the issues, but we need to open our eyes, just as I have had to come to open my eyes. We need to own our lack of understanding in a way which makes us willing to hear from those who can help us in our understanding. And to those who insist there is no racism in the URC, I encourage them to engage with the testimonies of those in our midst who experience a very different perspective. Those who have asked, does the URC know? And here is another poem. Do they know? Do they know, Karen? Does the URC know all that we face day out and day in? What we see, what we hear, what we take in our stride, what it means, how it feels to walk in our skin. Can they imagine the sting standing fresh in the church, offering gifts of talents and time and much more, to be told, you're not needed for this nor for that. We've called a white colleague we knew from before. Do they know how it burns when the message is shared? She says she's not coming on any such day, that you lead, that you preach, because she insists. She can't understand a word that you say. Do they have any idea just how much it smarts when a colleague in collar seeks to keep me in check, says, I welcome your folks in the pews that cannot accept a white collar around a black neck? When we look around and see so many ways we uphold this church, our church, across this land, then look beyond local, see our spaces dissolve, and hear the view that perhaps this is all as God planned. Do they know, Karen? Does the URC know just what we encounter while they say we belong? What it means to be black in this church, our church? Please hear what we see that something is wrong. I'm pleased to report that Global and Intercultural Ministries has been working on a docufilm, a resource featuring different ministers sharing their testimonies, and this will soon be available for use by the wider church to enable and facilitate local conversations. So now I'm turning expressly to our theme of keeping hope alive, because I know that a lot of what I've shared today doesn't sound very positive, but I am full of hope. If I wasn't full of hope, I wouldn't be here. I would have to pack my bags and go somewhere else. But I'm here, in my church, in this place. And I'm particularly hopeful in the wake of URC's General Assembly, finished just a few days ago, because there are big things happening. General Assembly adopted the Statement of Confession and Apology regarding the legacies of transatlantic slavery. And that Statement of Confession and Apology was spoken by Fiona Bennett, our new General Assembly moderator, and Adrian Bully, deputizing for our General Secretary. It was spoken in the closing act of worship. And it came as a surprise to many. Even though we knew the resolution had been passed, that it had been adopted, the reading, the hearing it came as a surprise. And I'm going to tell you the truth. There were more than just a few wet eyes in the hall. It mattered. It mattered. General Assembly has committed to following up with actions of repairing justice or reparations, seeking to address the continuing legacies through our partner churches in Africa, the Caribbean, and consulting with synods and local churches here to address the issues in our midst. General Assembly has given the okay to further work regarding positive action to correct the underrepresentation of black and ethnic minority people in assembly-appointed positions in our church. And General Assembly has elected its first black woman assembly moderator, Reverend Dr. Tessa Henry Robinson. And Tessa will serve from General Assembly 23 to 24. And in the meanwhile, Youth Assembly, back in January, elected their first black assembly moderator, Philippa Osse. And when she takes up her post, as I said, she'll be the first black person to serve in that role. The Spirit is moving. The Spirit is keeping hope alive. And I am excited. I don't fool myself that these milestones mark the destination. I know, I'm not asking the question, I know that it's from this point that the real work begins. But we've got people poised and ready to take on the challenges and to see the journey through. I believe we're moving closer to our God-given place. Hope is most definitely alive, and for this, we give God thanks. I'm going to close by sharing one final poem. I have two to choose from, but I think I've decided with this one. It's called One. I am one woman, singing with one voice. I have only one opinion, mine. In that I have no choice. I can take what I believe, express it with a shout, but the whisper of the masses will always drown my one voice out. I am part of one family with different pitch and tone. I have my view and you have yours, but we don't have to stand alone. I can take what I believe and share my thoughts with you. By listening and by learning, we can write our songs anew. We are part of one people, 1,000 voices ring, each one to a unique tune, but seeking the same thing. To take that thing each one believes and tell and make it known, to gain respect and understanding for the song that is our own. We are one humanity, a million hearts now long, to express the thing that each holds dear, to sing aloud their song, to take the thing which they believe and with an aim preferred, shout it loud from deep within and make their voices heard. One creation, all of us, myriad in our throng. And what a noise we all could make if singing the same song. A song of joy, a song of peace, a song in which we find release, a mighty song to set us free. A song for you, a song for me. I am just one woman, singing with one voice. I have only one opinion, mine, but I have a choice. To find the thing that we believe, stand with you in one shout, invite the world to join our song, and we will never be drowned out.